then how many of you are probably, or whatever, let me put it this way, you have quit your jobs and you are just sort of about to start your own venture? Oh, perfect, perfect. And then how many are in the idea validation phase thinking that, look, I have a great idea about how to take it forward? Okay, perfect. So it's roughly around 50% have already in the idea validation phase thinking what to do next. 30% would be sort of someone who has already taken the plunge, and 20% are in between. And that's the trickiest position to be in. So what we can do, we can open it up, the session, and let it not be I am answering every question, let everyone sort of interact with each other. But for us, when we look at let me give you perspective from the sort of funding aspect. When we look at, the first thing that comes to everyone besides the team is the idea. And it's the idea stage where a lot of ventures get rejected, at least from a investor's perspective. They look at an idea and they have this knack of quickly making a judgment and saying that, look, this idea works or this doesn't work. And therefore, the reason becomes, even at a venture stage, when you're going at a seed fund or the early investor, idea is the most critical part, apart from the team that you are working with. And therefore, we wanted to sort of take this opportunity to talk about idea validation and the critical components involved in it. Just some statistics that I can share from what I had looked at earlier. Initial stage, when any idea comes to anyone who's sort of looking at investing, about 30, 40, or 30 to 50% of those will get rejected because the idea is not scalable, or the opportunity is not the greatest opportunity you're going after, and about 50 to 70% gets rejected because of the team. So both are equally important. One is, both of them is in your control. One is what you sort of evolve over the course of time. The second is what you have is as part of the team. So we can start. The way I would like to do this is, if you guys have thought of any questions, if you can pop those questions up, and then we can sort of discuss that, and basis that we can sort of take the next set of questions and move towards that. If that format works for you, we can do that. Otherwise, I have a couple of questions that came to us. I can start from that as the first bit, and I'm leaving it up to you guys. In the sense of business potential, I think when you're looking at an idea, we typically break it down into two broad components. The first component, we call it as from an external perspective, which is how big the market is, how fast it is growing, and what's the competitive landscape, which is not in your control. You have chosen an idea. For us, we chose an idea in education. We say it's a large market. There is not a lot of competition when it is coming to the sort of the higher post-secondary education space. And we said, let's look at this and evolve further. So the first phase of looking at an idea is looking at from a very sort of macro external perspective. And believe me, 90% of the idea will cross because it crosses the macro idea, because you will not get into a venture where you see that there's not enough potential to move into this thing. The second element of validating an idea, which is very critical, is the micro way of looking at an idea at the end of the day, which involves you looking at what is the business model you are following, what is the core differentiation that you are bringing to the table, and each one of them I will talk about a bit more. What kind of monetization that you are sort of thinking about in this idea stage. How will you create a sustainable differentiation that will not end today but will continue for the future as well. Let me ask you a very simple question, right? Flipkart as a business idea is great, and it has reached the scale where it has because buying retail, it's a large market, and it had to work out. But any thoughts as to what you think was the most critical success factor, why Flipkart is Flipkart today and it is not getting commoditized to the extent it should?
The scale they are built.
Yeah, but the scale is something that's a Nokia had a scale, but it did not sustain.
Yeah.
If there is one thing, so let me put it, the differentiation part, when you think of differentiation, the way to think of this is, if you have an idea, can your friend sitting next to you start the same business tomorrow? And if you can get an answer to that, because ultimately what Flipkart is doing, building a website is not difficult. Tying to a certain vendors is not difficult. So I'll just keep it open, and then so you can throw out some thoughts on that. What from your side, the critical differentiation factor is for a e-commerce company?
User experience, you can say.
Yeah.
The kind of user experience
Yeah.
in Flipkart,
Yeah.
what I find is better than the other guys.
Okay. User experience, by that you mean?
The customer service, the reviews and kind of ratings it shows.
Yeah.
There is a differentiation
Yeah.
compared to the other guys.
Yeah,
So
which
for
is the
that
web, how the website look, how the UI UX is, how do you flow through this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how difficult it is for you to build that user experience if you get a best web developer.
I think the biggest differentiator is logistics. I mean, they've set it up on their own.
Yeah.
Tier 2 and Tier 3, and I think that's a bigger differentiator.
Actually, there's an ecosystem.
Yeah,
So there are multiple things. There's logistics, there is user friendliness. So all the things need to be in place, working in an ecosystem so that everything works fine.
yeah,
If anything goes like wrong, then it will be a like gap between user
what they want and
satisfaction
what I absolutely agree with you, but let's say if you have to outsource one or two things, will you outsource one thing from what Flipkart is doing today on their own? And that's where your answer will come that look, I mean the entire ecosystem and the entire experience
They
is
start
best.
with basic thing.
Yeah,
They controlled everything first. As they grew, as they scaled up, they started outsourcing things that can be outsourced.
yeah,
So they are building on their own
no, correct, yeah.
platform.
But I think when you talk to the Flipkart founders also, and something that I've done personally because they were all sort of from the same batch, one of the critical differentiation that came out when I talked to them was, as you rightly mentioned, was the logistics piece. What they realize is that the logistics infrastructure that they have built today, the next set of guys will find it very difficult to sort of create that. And on taking on top of the same point, then you move on to let's say the next guys, which is whatever, Snapdeal will build the same thing, but let's say there will be certain verticals that will come in the business also, right? I mean, there is a horizontal e-commerce provider, but when you get to something like let's say a Pepperfry or an Urban Ladder, they have created a business which Flipkart and the Snapdeals of the world are not able to penetrate today. And that again boils down to the logistics and this last mile delivery that they have. Flipkart can put on a bag and can move to the roads and submit the sort of a mobile phone, etc., to anyone. But it becomes very difficult if it's a big sort of chair or table or a bed. And therefore, if once you go deeper, it comes down to a very simple thing that most of them are doing. Similarly, let's take an example of Zomato. If you have any thoughts on why do you think Zomato is what it is today? Because Yelp used to exist, Burp used to exist when they started. Zomato came in and Zomato created a scale business which did not used to exist, and it's difficult to, as of now, it's difficult to sort of disrupt Zomato, but there would be ideas and thoughts that within the team, the group, we may have something. But any thoughts as to what you feel is the differentiation that Zomato has created, which is not allowing anyone else to sort of come into the market and disrupt
The
Zomato?
depth in the listings.
Okay, yeah.
More and more number of restaurants, like they have listed like almost every restaurant, so they are always looking.
Do you know Yelp's model? Do you guys have an idea of Yelp model? So the way Yelp model, and I'll put down both these model and then let's talk about why the other idea came on to becoming and overtaking what the Yelp model was. So Yelp model is any one of you go to a restaurant, you will say, okay, I went to this restaurant in Bandra, and you will put out feedback on Yelp. Whereas Zomato does it slightly differently. Zomato has Zomato people who are going there and collecting the menus, etc., which is not that scalable as compared to Yelp, right? I mean, because Yelp can tomorrow, if you have gone to a restaurant, you put in another restaurant. Whereas for Zomato, they will have to go to each one of these restaurants again and again, again and again on a continuous basis. Given these two differences, which Zomato took a more sort of brute force approach, and Yelp, which took a more user-generated approach, that each and every user is sort of adding their own feedback, which is more scalable. Zomato have, honestly, if you look at the numbers that you will see in London, the numbers that you are seeing in Dubai, Zomato has overtaken Yelp in the manner they have gone about doing this. They have a great product, they have a great UI UX, which is fundamentally superior to what Yelp has, what Burp had in India. But if you have to pick up one thing which Zomato should not outsource, or the one thing that it should be always under Zomato's control to create that long-term differentiation.
Sourcing of data.
Okay, sourcing of data. What that means, people on the street. Yeah, yeah. But sourcing of data, wouldn't the Yelp model be better, where someone is sort of giving?
Every time.
Yeah,
But my company, I have to supply. He has to do it anyway.
yeah, yeah.
So that's a more unique approach.
And the second approach is more brute force and more unique. But why do you think in this business it becomes more relevant?
Because
Yeah, as in
food
the
is,
housing space. Sorry, please go ahead. Yeah.
food is something very different. Mostly people eat 2-3 times a week.
Yeah.
Maybe there are people in India nowadays who are eating every day.
Yeah.
So everyday thing you have to as a follow up every day. You
Yeah.
can't say I go once a week
Yeah.
and I put a review there and I can take that one day a week a review and put it on the whole month.
Yeah. Yeah.
So everyday things require like stock market. You have to you can't say I
No, correct, yeah.
saw one day and after 1 month I will
That point is very relevant because the restaurant business is so unique that the churn in a restaurant business is 20-30%. A restaurant does not survive beyond 5 years. So one of the challenges that Yelp started facing was first 5 years they grew rapidly, and then people started realizing a lot of restaurant reviews were not fully correct, in the sense that you have written a review but the restaurant did not exist when they went to that place because the restaurant had shut down. And that is the reason why they invested heavily on that last mile set of people, and for them that was the most critical differentiating factor for those guys. Their product is great, but I think if you get very good designers, very good backend engineers and sort of UI UX folks, you will create a much better looking app than what Zomato has. I mean, it will take you time to understand the workflow, but you will create something really kick-ass. But getting those restaurants, I mean, if today, tomorrow we want to sort of start a restaurant business, the rating business, we can create that app, but creating that last mile sort of interconnectivity and sort of moving back and forth becomes very difficult. So if you look at least those 3 examples, yeah, sorry.
Also, one other thing that Zomato did right was they started to give these stars to people, right?
Yeah,
Then people who review,
yeah, yeah,
they
yeah,
started to say that these guys
yeah,
are the best guys to review. They've got 20, 30 reviews.
yeah.
So a new guy, a customer, when he saw that,
And then sort of puts
Mayank-
up this thing. Yeah.
Mayank knows his.
Yeah.
Yelp could also do the same thing.
Yelp is doing that same thing. Yelp is doing that same thing. You
But
can
this is user
yeah,
generated
yeah,
feedback,
yeah.
right? So then
Yelp is doing a much better job in user generated
because your
feedback.
model is that.
Yeah, but I think the point is that once you have, in general, at a very fundamental level, it's my dumbed down level of looking at any business idea, is I look at whether the product is kick-ass or not, and whether the product can create a long-term sustainable differentiation or not. And I'm talking about only differentiation, right? The second, and what is a good product at the end of the day? Apple is a great product, right? I mean, Apple comes out with a phone, people just go die to get that phone. If you are building a business which is on product differentiation, you will have to ensure that you are coming out with a newer version of product again and again, because the market is not going to wait for you. You have to be Apple in the DNA, or otherwise you become a pharma company. Anything you do, you patent it out and you hold it now, right now. In today's day and age, patenting becomes very difficult. And Indian market, if I come out with the best drug, अरे वो product patenting था, मेरे यहाँ पे service patenting है, process patenting है, I'll change one step in the process, I'll create a different drug at 1/100th of the cost. Patenting works if you can protect that patent, and that's how the entire publishing industry evolved, which is copyright, and then you hold this thing. But now it's very difficult to sort of create differentiation on product unless you are an Apple, which is a DNA has to be very different when you're building the business also.
Coming back to this earlier conversation of Flipkart and Zomato,
Yeah.
just trying to catch the theme which you're saying.
The theme that I was, yeah, so
Theme,
yeah,
if I'm getting it correctly,
Yeah.
you can add it up. You use the word outsource also.
yeah.
So you're saying that create things which cannot be outsourced.
Which if you outsource, you will die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if I'm understanding it correctly, you're saying that you create things, create a backbone,
Yeah,
which maybe it's not only about an app or something or technology,
yeah,
but on the execution side, the backbone, if you create it well,
yeah,
from a long-term perspective,
yeah.
you may be able to sustain that well.
exactly, yeah.
Am I correct in
No,
understanding?
absolutely. And in this entire example, one of the other second theme that comes out is all these backbones from one level was all offline elements that was not on the app.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
what I'm trying to understand.
That backbone becomes absolutely
Yeah,
important.
because it's the same thing if you were just discussing Oyo Room's thing with Amit. And I think that's what this guy, Shailesh, has created a strong backbone. You want to add on to that? I mean, you gave a very good example of Oyo Rooms, how he created it.
What I was telling them now, Oyo Rooms, there were trip advisors, right?
Yeah.
Suppose you are a budget traveler and you are going to a new city, so when you see the ratings and the reviews on the net, no, you are not that comfortable at times,
Yeah,
What he has done, he has had on-ground partnerships with the budget hoteliers, and he has tried to standardize the inventory.
yeah,
Like the major pain points, the linen was not good, the AC is not working,
yeah,
or the washroom is not clean or the पानी नहीं आ रहा है ठीक से.
तो quality control supervisor
So when
लगाएंगे.
you are
Absolutely,
on ground, as
yeah.
you said about Zomato, on ground touch and feel is there, no? So
Yeah.
you have actually you can standardize there.
No, correct, yeah.
Because photo दिखाते हैं कोई भी कर सकता है, कैटलॉग बना देंगे Zomato.
आपका हाउसिंग में यही प्रॉब्लम था.
हाँ.
Housing solved for the same problem, the
Yeah.
trust problem
वो
of.
क्रिएट किया उन्होंने, डेटा
Yeah.
को क्रिएट
So I
किया.
think it's not only about creating a good user experienced app,
Yeah.
but
Going
before you
beyond
create the
that,
app,
yeah.
actually you
Understand
ensure
the
that the
ground reality,
backbone
Yeah.
is pretty strong. You have people there.
Yeah. And you will realize when you're building it that, see, otherwise if you create a good app, right, it becomes more a movie thing, right? If I come out with the next, whatever that game was there, right? The Angry Birds. You can come out with after 100 thing, one Angry Bird. But like coming out with Angry Bird again and again, you need to be Steve Jobs in order to do that. And Steve Jobs is a very sort of, but your point is absolutely correct. Build a backbone which is very difficult to sort of.
The backbone keep on evolving, keep on changing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it has to be continuously evolved. For example, on Oyo Room, when they started off, they said, we'll provide Wi-Fi, we'll provide good dinner, we'll provide a great sort of, yeah. So now on the linen thing, what they have done is they have done a tie-up with, they've outsourced it to someone, but they have done a tie-up with a consistent linen coming from Bombay dyeing, and they don't have to worry about that. See, that's the reason I believe the best business to sort of learn from is actually McDonald's. Is if you can fry the same fries in 30 seconds and give the fries with this exactly the same taste again and again, it becomes a, I mean that's at a very basic level, at a very, yeah, that's the USP that is very difficult to sort of break by a lot of people. Southwest became Southwest because of the consistency of the experience that they can offer. Plane will stop, you will come in, you will change everything. Within 15 minutes, the plane is ready to sort of fly back. And that our friends at sort of Kingfisher also try to do, sort of toning down a bit. But if you sort of bring it down to that level, then you don't have to give food. So because if you give food, then taking out the food, loading in the food, that takes a bit of time. And therefore, the process has to be designed in a manner which actually suits your DNA that you're building for the company. If the company is about the best check-in, check-out experience, you don't need to give them probably a loyalty card, for hypothetically speaking, which they will.
Speed, accuracy, quality, and
Yeah,
cost effectiveness
yeah.
are the mantras.
Yeah, and cost effectiveness is the mantra, but cost effectiveness also, how do I say that?
It should not come at the cost of quality.
Yeah, it should not come at the cost of
Speed,
quality.
accuracy,
Yeah,
quality and cost effectiveness.
yeah. It should not come at the cost of quality. Yeah, exactly.
But Mayank, you
That's
said
where-
about, sorry,
Yeah, go ahead.
about this logistics part
Yeah.
of Flipkart being the core of it.
Yeah.
But what I know is they have outsourced their logistics also to guys like delivery and all.
Now they are doing it. Now they are doing it,
core
but
and then outsource.
they have actually figured out how it will work out. But even in terms of sort of the outsourcing thing, they are not taking out WS retail. So what ends up happening at their level is they have two choices to make, which is some of the companies are still doing. A choice to ensure that they own the logistics and ensure that the logistics remains always with them, or saying that 90% logistics will be done by me, 10% will be done by someone else, or you move on to owning the customer, which is a lot more about spending money on marketing and ensuring the customer will come only on the app, so on and so forth. So I think those are the strategic call that they have to take. The way the organization has changed right now is Sachin Bansal has moved on to looking at mostly advertisement and ad tech. So they're looking at new revenue lines about what they can do. The second, Mukesh Bansal, is now looking at mostly e-commerce, owning the customer, what's the marketing, how it will go about. And then Binny is looking at sort of ensuring that the logistics is in place in the long run. They will outsource bit by bit. Initially, they tried outsourcing when the logistics was being built. The challenge that they faced was the outsourcing guys were the likes of DHL, FedEx, and the Blue Darts of the world. And very basic thing, if you think of it, and it will now come out very intuitively, but what they did not realize was DHL is very good at taking a box and leaving it outside your gate. DHL is not the best when it comes to leaving the box and talking to the customer and handing over the box to someone. And therefore, they
DNA
took
is not that.
it's not that. So it's a more B2B kind of a DNA that DHL, FedEx has. Yeah, exactly. So
All these are B2C actually.
for them, it is very important to create a customer experience, which all of you guys said, and that meant getting inside the house and saying कि boss TV यहाँ पे लगेगा, तो TV यहाँ पे ही लगेगा, and this is how TV has to be done. A DHL guy or even a delivery guy today cannot offer those kind of sort of user experience, and that is very, very difficult to sort of build. So summarizing whatever that I was talking about is that you will look at the market, you will look at the opportunity, and you will come out with something really kick-ass idea. But then a large part of whatever that you're doing should go into figuring out what is it that I need to focus the maximum amount on to ensure that I will be superior to anyone else coming in the market tomorrow. And that question should come from talking to the person next to you, यार कि अगर कल को तुम मेरा idea करोगे, can you do it? And then the person will say, I can do it, but I cannot do this one or two things. You will start getting an idea that, look, in my business idea, this is the one thing which is very difficult for me to replicate. And I don't know the ideas that the team internally has here, but building differentiation on brand, on marketing in the long run becomes very difficult. And therefore having the core backbone ready on which you can build a brand. So one of the questions that I want to sort of add one more thing, which we used to always hear, is that why do you need this money from us? They said, I need this money because I need to build a brand, and that brand will be a differentiation. And I remember the word when we were presenting to the Tata Group, and Tata Group has this thing that, look, our brand is probably the best brand in the market, and if we launch anything, we should do great because brand is a differentiator. What they realized after burning a lot of cash, after making a lot of mistakes, was that brand alone cannot be a differentiator. Brand has to be built on something, and then you need to find that something for which the brand should stand for. And that's the other mistake that at least I've seen a lot of people making, thinking that give me $10 million, I'll put $10 million in building marketing, but marketing of what? Is the first question that everyone needs to sort of answer. So with that, as a just sort of setting context, if you guys have any questions, not for me, but in general for the team, that you would like to discuss, thoughts and ideas, we can pick that up, or otherwise I can keep on going one by one with different questions.
There's something that I would like to add, Mayank. For example, like the point where you trade off. Yeah, I want to build a brand, but then it has to be on something. It's just a book for people to talk about. Now, if I have a book to sell, people are not buying my book because it's not a brand, right? Or there are other brands of books, so people are buying the brands of known brands. So, but then if 5 years down the line, if this has to become a brand, it has to go on and slowly reach people, slowly give quality, slowly give cost effectiveness, and then people will start recognizing this is a brand, and then only I'll be able to sell it. If I start marketing this book as whatever name and just spend on marketing alone, then it's not possible. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm trying to say, yeah. Because then it's like the cement business, right? Cement business is highly commoditized. It's आप 5 रुपए का बेचोगे, मैं 4 रुपए 99 पैसे का बेचूंगा, people will come and buy from me. It then comes down to, are you creating an Evernote kind of a book or a writing pad? Some differentiation that needs to come that is going to delight the consumer at the end of the day. And once you know that differentiation, you go and harp about that differentiation. कि यार मेरे book में लिखोगे तो 5 मिनट बाद अपने आप delete हो जाएगा. It's a brilliant idea that no one has right now, and I'll build on that idea, whatever that idea will be. But that will become your brand, not like just the name of the brand.
Not just hoardings that this book, but value.
Yeah. And today, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead,
So
please.
I just
Go
want
ahead.
to ask you, you say building a differentiation is important. So
Yeah.
I agree with that. But then how do you find it if that's a differentiation which the customer wants to know? Because you can come
Yeah,
up with
no,
something,
correct,
say,
yeah,
this is
yeah,
different from
yeah,
other products.
yeah.
And you might believe that, hey, this is truly what the customer wants, and
Yeah.
you go hammer and tongs and try to make it big.
Yeah.
But many products have failed because they've got good differentiation, but that's not what
No,
the market
true,
exactly
true.
wants. So, then
So
how
I
do
think,
you
yeah,
validate
so
that?
that's because differentiation will come as the second thing. The first one was the micro idea. The first thing is to understanding the pain point. And that pain, when you're sort of thinking of the business, the first thing all of you would have done is, yeah, ye pain point exists in the market, and I need to solve for this pain point. If I have to solve for these pain points, I need to do A, B, C, D, E. Of these A, B, C, D, E, the number D, I think it's the toughest thing to do. And because it is tough for me to do, it will be tough for others to do. And therefore, that will become the differentiation for me in the long run. So you will start with that first step that, look, my idea is, this is the pain point. And I think pain point is a good sort of diversion that we can take here, is that at step one, understanding and identifying pain point becomes absolutely crucial. And if you cannot, this is the funny thing that I say, it's a grandmother's test. If you cannot explain the pain point to your grandmother in very simple words, without using you have not understood the pain point. If you cannot explain the solution of the pain point, your idea, and believe me, if you just keep in mind, ouch, whatever that you have to say, if those words do not come out, it means that you have cracked the idea. If it is difficult for you to explain to your grandmom, to your mom, to your colleagues, etc., it is not yet fully solved. And I think first you do these two steps before you get to the differentiation. Yeah, correct.
But I mean, just one question I have in mind. These guys like Flipkart, we started this
Yeah.
discussion. The differentiation is the discount or differentiation is the logistics? I mean, I'm yet to figure it out.
Yeah.
I mean, the majority of the sales is happening because of the discount. And
Yeah,
all the
yeah.
4-5 top guys.
Yeah.
So differentiation is the
See, when
Discount supported by logistics.
discount supported by logistics,
And the main thing that
This
e-commerce is growing because cash on delivery services available, returns are available. If you cut both these, I think half the sale will be
Yeah.
half.
I think I'll add to one of these pointers. If you go in suburbs also, there are a lot of shops which sell mobiles and other things.
yeah,
One place I had gone and I tried to buy a mobile. To the left he had a counter, a specific counter, and one guy was just packing the bags and it was written eBay.
yeah, yeah,
So I just happened to ask that guy, what is this? So he's saying every morning the eBay guy comes in and I deputed a person who packs the orders, the eBay gives me the orders, and these goods are shipped to Chennai.
yeah,
The reason being because Mumbai is a lot of mobile phones market, grey market, everything is there,
yeah.
which is in Chennai it's not there.
And it goes to Chennai to sort of
So
sold.
this,
Yeah.
all this mobile, so this OTC over the counter sales are running.
Yeah, parallelly. Yeah, yeah,
ESK was specifically a guy
yeah,
who just packs the orders and they was humongous, it was completely
Yeah.
at least 25. And
No,
every
correct,
morning
yeah.
he comes, he gets a specified monthly business.
yeah.
And the salary also, in turn, some of it portion is paid by eBay.
No, correct. Yeah,
I'm not sure
correct.
how Flipkart does it, but what I'm trying to say that if you want to buy a mobile, let's say I want to buy a
Yeah,
mobile,
yeah,
I come from office, with 8, 9, I will not have the
time to
energy
go.
to go and buy a mobile.
Yeah, yeah,
I'll probably go on Saturday, but that too I'll go on evening.
yeah,
So the time period in the morning, which is 11 to 4, that's a lean period.
yeah.
I think what the guy was saying that these guys, Flipkart, Snapdeal, or
Take the
they're trying
maximum
to
advantage.
Attack that lean period.
Yeah.
And give you business. Okay, अब over the counter sale कर लो.
No,
This
correct. Yeah,
additional business I'm giving to you. So that is also something which is
correct. Yeah,
which has helped the
the industry at
the
least this thing. Yeah,
industry
yeah.
in general.
No, but it started with discounts, and that's where there is at
Those
least
OTC guys
yeah,
are not giving you discount.
yeah.
Because
They are not
they
giving
say,
discount.
"Oh, you go and buy from
But
It's an-
I
discount
cannot
is
give
an
you.
eyewash. I mean, my last
I
week
cannot give
experience.
you.
Yeah.
Even guys like Chroma are not able to
Yeah,
give you.
no, correct. Yeah,
Last week, my personal experience, I had to buy some crockery for home. So the Flipkart Snapdeal was showing 5,500 full set of crockery, right? और 5,500 को काट के 3,000 रुपया दिखा रहे, 3,200 रुपया. 5,500 को लाइन लगा के 3,200 रुपया. And my next to my house is a पूरा लोखंड वाला बाजार. मैं बोला टच एंड फील भी चाहिए, देखते हैं जाके, I will compare it, देख कर रहे हैं. वो सेम चीज 2,400 में मिल रहा है. So what I'm trying to say, no, discount भी eyewash है actually.
perception.
हाँ, so logistics ठीक है, they are solving a pain point, but customer also wants touch and feel in many categories also.
Yeah.
और discount भी क्या है ना, वो बहुत सारा eyewash भी दिखा रहे हैं. So I don't know कि कितना traction है, मतलब loyalty जो है ना.
सी मैं तो ये बोलता हूँ कि अगर मुझे आपको बोलना पड़े कल को कि wake up at 3 AM in the morning and exercise,
Yeah.
first day I will tell you, you will not wake up. The next day I'll slap you, you will wake up. So I need to put in a lot of effort to wake you up at 3 AM. For individuals from 2007, 8 to start buying books online, then to sort of buy these things online, there was someone required to slap them. But you cannot slap them, so you say, look, instead of slapping them, I'll give you mithai in the morning. When you wake up at 3 AM, this is the mithai for you. And it had, to certain extent, spoiled the industry in whichever manner. But I think the industry, as we speak today, there is a lot of rationality that has come to the market, and everyone has become very, very sane. So if you today go out looking for fundraise and looking for someone to sort of validate your idea, if at a unit metric your business is not working, no one is going to talk to you. So unit metric is essentially if you have to sell anything or if you have to offer any service, deducting all the direct variable cost, it has to be positive. To a certain extent, people also look at after deducting marketing, it has to be positive. You will have 50 log ka team doing coding, working on a product and building this thing. There's a corporate overheads on top of that. But your business, every transaction before marketing should make money for you. The contribution margin.
Meaning if the watch is being manufactured at 200 rupees, I'm selling it 400 rupees, at the end of the year when I'm multiplying 400 into 50,000 pieces and 250,000 pieces, it should not be in a loss.
Yeah, so essentially whatever that you are selling minus direct all cost, take it out, and that's what everyone is looking at today. So that rationality is hitting because they said we spend a lot of money. We have invested about $5, $6, $10 billion into building an ecosystem, enough of building it to that extent. Now it is about ensuring the business at a fundamental level works. To give that example, Amazon took 17, 18, I don't know the exact numbers, years to achieve profit. It took about 10 years, 12 years to actually start hitting profit because they had to change the way consumers were buying. Whether that change is happening or not, at a fundamental level, the change is happening. People are buying online, e-commerce is working, people will go and buy online, and more people will buy online. Now the question is, you have to sort of rationalize the cost structure to ensure that, and that's where logistics become important, because logistics is a large component of that direct cost that you are sort of spending on this thing. And this is the time when everyone is trying to rationalize the market, including marketing. If your business is not making unit metric wise sense, not many people will talk to you today.
Talking about the GMV.
So GMV is that's the technical, those are technical terms, but GMV is whatever is spent on the platform is GMV. You subtract the discounts, that gives you NMV, which is the net merchandise value. You subtract what you pay to the vendor, like the dukan from where you pack the thing. If you are selling consumer at 3,200, you are paying that guy in the Lokanwala shop 1,500 or 1,300, 1,400. Subtract whatever that is being paid to the supplier, subtract the direct logistics cost, subtract any other sort of maintaining cost for that or packaging cost or whatever that thing is, what you get should be positive. After that you subtract marketing, people will accept that, look, take it. After that you subtract marketing, you can be negative. Yeah, you can be negative, but at least that first level of thing you should be positive.
And for Amazon, actually it's not that e-commerce which is profitable, it is AWS, Amazon.
Yeah,
yeah. That's where the profit is coming.
But Amazon also, if you actually look at the books and you go to the balance sheet, the sector-wise results, Amazon as a conscious thing, they don't take out any profit from the company. So Amazon, if you look at the last 10 years sort of profitability number, at least for the last 6-7 quarters, I think last quarter, last to last quarter was the first time Amazon showed some profit. I think they forgot to reinvest the profit back into the systems and the infrastructure they're building. So the Amazon philosophy is whatever profit that I will generate, I will plow it back to make sure my systems are scalable for the next level of growth. I can invest back to AWS. AWS now has become significant to what the revenue contribution is. Yeah.
Profit contribution.
Yeah, and people never realize but that's a very long discussion to have about what Amazon is doing, what iPhone is doing, what Google is doing, and what Microsoft is doing. And people don't talk about IBM today, but IBM now is sort of coming out with other, but Dell EMC is happening. So that ecosystem is I think that will require us for 5 days to just keep on discussing as to who's the winner amongst all those things.
Also, like largely, money, these processes, amongst the two-legged e-commerce race is irreversible. I mean, when you start buying online, then you might go to touch and feel offline, but then eventually,
it is.
If it is buy online, so eventually, they will start reaping those profits.
No, we invested in a company called Pepperfry earlier. When Pepperfry, we were looking at this. I met them in January 2013 or 2014. 2014 January. I told him, boss, ye bina touch karke how am I going to buy a furniture? That was my question, because as an investor I have to be always, nothing will work, everything is wrong what you're doing. So they said, look, things are changing, people are buying stuff without touching and feeling. That company on a sort of a month-on-month basis is growing at 10, 20, 30% on a month-on-month basis. People are going and buying, so that behavior will happen. I think that behavioral shift is absolutely happening right now in the market.
Now Pepperfry is opening its offline store in Mumbai.
Yeah. Have you seen, if you go to the airport,
It's there.
The reason why they built this thing was to create an experience for the consumer, because again, going back to the differentiation, yes, the logistics is there, but that sense of belongingness that people should not see that it's in www. If the website shuts down, everything will shut down. So that's their way of showing that we exist, and we exist for real. And those small things will come as you start building the business over the course of time, what additional thing that you need to add to create that you're building a sustainable, scalable business in the long run. Anything else that specific to your idea, specific to your problem that at least you would like the team to validate or team to sort of talk about in general?
I have a question. It's a general thing. Suppose you have an idea which you feel is good and you approach an investor.
Yeah.
So I have read and I have heard that it's idea plus the team investors investing.
Yeah.
So what if there's a guy who has an idea and he or his friend is there only, like couple of people are there.
Yeah.
And the other one is developer, he's also from the technical background.
Yeah.
So how will he get funding?
See, funding, yeah. So let me point to this thing. I think the first thing that the investor or any potential guy, you're rightly saying that in the initial stage is team and the opportunity that you're going after. You're talking about how would they look at opportunity, how would they look at team?
Right, both.
Both, right? So opportunity we spoke, right? What customer you're going after, what pain point you're solving for, what's your idea that is going to solve for the pain point, and then how big is that opportunity going to be in the long run? Is it going to be $1 billion opportunity? Is it going to be $100 million opportunity? So on and so forth. So that's the macro element that they will look at. The second thing is they will go very deep into the team, and by that, if you have to build a business of mobile games, you need to have a person who understands the channels, how you can reach out to those channels and sell those games, someone to think about the game as a concept, someone to code it, someone as a UI UX guy. So they will figure out what are the key critical components involved into building this. They will look for in the founding team, co-founding team, whether they have the complementary skill sets into building what it takes till the point you take it to the minimum viable product. So step one is people will always look at your team, whether the team has the ability to take it to a minimum viable product or not. If I give you $1 million or 10 lakh, 20 lakh rupees, I would expect you to take the 20 lakh rupees and build it into a small prototype that you can give.
Minimal value. When the challenge always comes in, which I've been talking to a lot of people, there are two things. Either you first build a minimum viable product, you scale it up to a level, and then you say, okay, boss, I have built the MVP. I have burnt in my money also, and I made some money or may not made some money. Now I want you to invest. Either we go that route or we say, okay, I have an idea, I have a business plan, etc.
Fund me.
I don't have the money, so what is the right way to do it?
I think the first one, the second one that you mentioned, that I have the idea in a paper and then business plan, etc. You will find very few takers for that.
This is what I felt when I went.
You have to put the thing that look, your skin is in the game. Some of you raised your hand. I have quit my job. I have invested 5 lakh rupees of my own. I reached out to my parents to give me 10 lakh rupees. So I have gotten all those guys to sort of get me that money that I can show you that my idea is working broadly. But after that, when you go to an institutional investor, if you go to an angel guy, the angel guy will look at you. They will put a lot more weightage on the team, and they will put
more on the person rather than the idea. Is that what you're saying?
Initial, at the real early stage, and then they will look at the idea. As you go to the second stage, when you start getting to 15, 20, 30 lakh, 50 lakh or crore kind of a funding, they will look at the idea seriously. कि यार इस पे अगर पैसा डाल रहा हूँ, so can I get?
So are you trying to say that initially it's about the people?
It's a lot about the people also, yeah.
Okay.
It's a lot because ideas are gazillions ideas. The exact idea that you would be thinking of, 15 other people will be thinking of. Whether you, from the investor perspective, whether it is they see that you have it in it, you within yourself to take it to the level that you are looking to taking it to. Because idea is just a starting point. It's a hygiene factor. Like honestly, because it's not rocket science to figure out that. And sometimes ideas come to you because you are doing something in the morning and I try to sort of polish my shoes and polishing is not happening properly, or I should come out with a business for that. But then after that, whether it is in what it takes for you to take the business from an idea stage to that, it becomes very relevant. It depends upon the individual who is doing it. And I think funding is a different ball game. So I'll probably come and cover the funding area in a more detailed manner. But on the idea thing, anything else that,
Just two things, one on the idea and one on the team. So I'll just start with the team first. So you mentioned that ideas are gazillion, and then the angel investor or anybody looks at the team in place. So what is your advice for a team which is a complete set of first time entrepreneurs and they are like college graduates or something like 1 or 2 years industry experience,
Yeah.
and they don't have the requisite connections, they don't have the requisite
Yeah.
startup experience,
Yeah.
but they've got the blocks in place, like they have a UI UX guy, they have a coder
Yeah.
guy, they have a guy who looks after business development. So then what is the advice for that team in order to probably go for
Yeah.
funding or approach for funding?
Yeah.
That's on the team.
Yeah.
Second on the idea is, so whatever things you mentioned like Snapdeal, Amazon, all these are products which have actually got monetary value.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I want to ask you, what about stuff which are technological in nature? Say for example, okay, a glamorous example is Facebook and
Yeah.
Twitter,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah. Yeah.
and my example would be supposed to say Quora.
Yeah.
Now a Quora is still not making profits,
Yeah.
still not making money.
Money as much. Yeah.
But how is it that they're able to validate the idea or convince the people like, hey, they've got such a huge market at the moment?
Yeah.
So things which are non-monetary
Yeah.
in transaction,
Yeah.
what is the advice for that kind of startups?
So I think on the first one, in terms of the team, see, honestly, no one is looking for experience in the team to drive it. A lot of folks will come to looking at a team saying that, look, it has the energy, they understand the problem, they can communicate the problem in a very easy, meaningful, sort of very simple manner, and I trust that these guys will execute. That's a complete punt at that point in time. There is no science behind that. That I'll look at GPA 6, 7 above and this and below this thing. It's a punt that they're taking at the individual or the team. That look, they have the clarity of thought. They have thought about this. ये करेंगे, अगर नहीं करेंगे तो कुछ और कर लेंगे. I know that these guys will get it done at the end of the day, and that's how they start at a very, very early stage level. So, yeah, sorry.
Just sorry.
Yeah.
And what about IIT, IM?
I don't. I mean, it's very. I mean, it's overplayed to a large extent. I mean, free charge has no IIT, IM.
I think I have also, because I met an investor.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to give you 10 lakh rupees. If you get an IIT guy on board, I'm going to give you 50 lakh.
अरे तो मैं तो बोलता आप ले आओ ना फिर एक उसी समय पे. But there is this fascination with people. Yeah.
This is, and it's clearly the investors also say that if you have IIT guy kind of thing, I'll give you X round of funding, and if you have this, I will X minus funding.
But he has IIT, IM and there is.
So
No, but
I think the demarcation is happening.
No, it is happening. I agree with you, but no one will say it upfront to you that look, अरे मुझे चाहिए.
मुझे तो सीधा मुंह पे
और मैं भी बोलूँगा यहाँ पे. No, but वो होता है, and that's why.
Bring to IIT, I want crore.
Like for example, the Ritesh.
Because ultimately the ideas when you form a team, it's all about a collaborative mind of thought.
No, absolutely.
Two people get together, two people feel that okay, this is going to work, and we're going to work together. I'm not going to ask him boss what is their education.
No, and you get him on board, and if that person is not syncing with you, it's the worst thing that you can do.
It's all about two minds coming together.
Rupees, it will get spent immediately because you will be fighting with each other because you're going to
But is that from investors' point of view, it's like a shortcut to understanding?
Yeah, see, ultimately, as we do in education, honestly, this is something that we want to break. Is I don't know him, I don't know how smart he is. I cannot solve these 5 questions before talking to me. I will tell you, have to show me your degree, what degree you have. So degree is a way of communicating what you know and what you don't know. And I think it will take time to change. I think honestly, the way we have been trained, that degree, the piece of paper will stay for us for a long time. If you laminate the paper, it's even better. If you sort of hard bound it, it's even better. Exactly. No one has ever seen the paper after they have graduated, but like I can remember earlier days, in everyone's house there would be one frame thing, this degree is there. Yeah, and then 55 degrees mentioned there, MBBS, PhD, this and that. But to that extent, I think there is that bias in it. And if you go and talk to any VC, not from a funding perspective, but generally to ask for advice, they will say, no, I don't care about IIT, IM. But at the back of the mind, they will. They will, yeah. No one will say it to you that way, but that person told you because he was to give the money. Yeah, before giving the money, he would not have come and told you any of those things. They think, no, I don't look at any credential and nothing of that sort. Yeah, so then you have to look at it consciously that whether this person is adding value to this thing. Yeah. Whether the person will add value to it or not. But I think the second question was about the different business models that people sort of start with. I think, I think a lot of businesses in India, at least the service wave that is coming today, people can monetize today itself, like a Grofers, Oyo, all those guys, every transaction will do later. The second bet is a slightly longish term bet where a lot of investors get afraid to sort of place bets on that. So as a business, it is tough to convince on the second element. But there your game is very simple, that you're building a highway, and once the highway is built, I'll put those each one sort of the hoardings for which I will collect the money, which is what the Facebook blah 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 have done. I think at that time you have to convince them that you are solving a pain point, and at the idea stage, people, if the person is really sharp, the person understands what you are sort of building, they will not look at monetization today. So I think whether having monetization from day one is important, I don't think so. Individual investors will have different sort of views on that, but a lot of businesses we see, and I have seen people getting funded, at least in India, in the latest wave, 10 million, 15 million, 20 million dollars without having any clue of monetization. Facebook, till the time they raised they got sold at $19 billion, they had zero monetization. WhatsApp and the Facebook acquired them. So zero monetization at that point in time, or whatever, that $1 they started charging from certain set of customer, that's it, right, at the end of the day. But at that time, it requires a huge amount of conviction to tell someone and convince someone that, boss, this is what I'm doing. It is so simple that I know that 100 million people will use it. And because 100 million people will use it, I can get money. I'll figure out monetization later. Yeah, it becomes, you have to say that, look, and therefore in the initial stage, focus a lot on what problem you are solving and how you are solving that problem, the pain point. And if you can explain that clearly, monetization is accidental in that manner. It will come to you by accident or by something, but you don't have to sort of probably plan for it also.
So it's okay to
absolutely.
Build something without a business model as long as it's a valid pain point and you're
absolutely, Housing is an example. I mean, you can LinkedIn is an example.
So when we go to VCs, like they have deep pockets. Obviously, we are going to them. Sometime a point or a thing is pain point for us because we have experienced it on a ground level. But in his cabin, case,
fair
he
point.
doesn't understand our point, and our point gets rejected. Then what to do?
That's why I'm saying to you the grandmother test is very important. If your grandmother cannot understand it, the VC will not. But your point is valid to the extent that if you take a B2C business and a B2B business, at least the angel guys get convinced with the B2C business earlier, because as a consumer they would have faced that problem. But B2B becomes difficult to convince someone, and therefore in B2B there are specific set of people who understand that domain, who would be more keen to sort of invest in you, rather than in general, who's a general sort of.
Probably what you're saying is you also need to look at investors and what kind of investments
exactly.
Exactly. Whether your idea is related to that
area,
and then you reach out to that guy so that you have a
there's
reasonable success.
This Fagun's friend is doing something in solar energy. It's a brilliant idea. He's sort of thinking of building something kick-ass, but when he's explaining it, he's talking so passionately about it as if everyone understands the importance of solar. But no one understands the importance of solar. So at that time, how you communicate, how you sort of put down that idea, and
you should talk to people who have invested in these kinds
of. So
choose those investors. That's the answer.
Probably choose the right investor at that point in time.
You have to do some research on that.
And get an answer which is as
every
simple.
Every idea has a business sector, you know.
It
could be retail, it could be anything.
No, true.
And just one thing. Can one person work on 3 ideas simultaneously? 3 different ideas.
And the reason why you're working on 3 different ideas, or one person is working on 3 different ideas, is because they don't have conviction on any one of them, or
they just believe in all 3 and lack of time and insecurity of someone else doing it.
See, I think
maybe the ideas are great.
No, but so correct. In that sense, either Jack Dorsey or Elon Musk is what you can become. I think, you are right. I mean, if you have to be Elon Musk to doing this. I'm saying at that stage, my advice would be it is tough. I mean, you will say I'm working on these 2 ideas. So the first question will come, why 2, why not 1? I think I love both of them, and this will be taken up by someone else. The investor will immediately worry that the person may not have the right focus, as in when we sort of invest in one of these things. As I said, the focus at the initial day, focus becomes very, very important, to the extent that when you are talking about the pain point and the problem that you are solving for, in your mind it has to be for one person, and therefore when you are working with 2 ideas, it becomes very difficult for someone to convince them that you can work on it. But can they work? Hypothetically speaking, yes. But there will be a lot of questions that will come to you, why you are working on 2 ideas, why can you not sort of focus on one? even when we invest in early stage sort of companies, one of the things that we used to always say that this funding is meant only for you to fix up your product. So just focus on product. So even when within an idea, there are phases in which you just focus on one thing and one thing only. If you have that bandwidth, if you feel that you can manage both of them, probably go ahead with it, but a lot of questions will come back to you whether those two ideas work.
Same logic was
For the first round of funding, they did not talk about the idea at all. They said, why are you here? Have you quit your job? They said, no, I have not yet quit my job. Come to me when you quit your job. And the meeting ended at that point in time.
Yeah, so that's where also the fundamental problems arises here. The people who are still working.
Yeah.
So that when is that focal point, touch point, you move out. This gentleman was kind enough saying, can you take a sabbatical break of 3 months?
See, my sense is there is no right time.
Not all people would do that.
Yeah, I don't think there's any right time. There is no right time. The day you have the conviction, you take the plunge, is how I see it.
There's always thing, you know, if you're working, if you're a partner, if you're alone, it's a different ballgame.
No, correct, yeah.
If you're a couple of partners, like I have a partner who is full time.
Yeah.
He has, so obviously we have reached an agreement that was you take maybe 70 to 80% of the share because
you're working full time on this. Yeah.
And I'll definitely try to be justice to what a time I'm giving, maybe 10 to 20%.
Yeah.
And gradually, so that risk becomes lesser. And then gradually you see the scaling up because these obviously around 6 months, 9 months down the line, as you see it growing, obviously you have an arrangement with the partner to increase your share.
Yeah.
That's another way of doing it.
And most of these ideas I'm hearing today are risk of this whole cloud.
No, correct. I mean, there is risk on it, yeah. And that
like everyone only wants to talk about Flipkart and X.
Yeah.
There are so many businesses which are there. You might buy 100 cows and do well.
Yeah, no, you might do 100 cows.
You'll do.
It's also
so many service providers.
Yeah, it's also a question of the aspiration and the risk that you are sort of willing to take. Yeah.
Actually, e-commerce is like e-commerce. So like I realized since the last 1.5 years I have not bought anything on e-commerce.
Yeah.
Not even 1 rupee I have spent on e-commerce anything.
Yeah.
Because while they have solved a problem, they also created a problem. They induce you to buy things you don't really need.
They make you lazy.
It's the same concept of a mall.
Yeah, same concept of mall.
They will discount you buy another phone.
This is a new product, let me try.
No, if you're not getting, the way I say look at e-commerce is if you're not getting funded by investors directly, buying it from e-commerce is an indirect way of getting funded through them. Because so much discount will come through you that in a way the VC money is coming to you directly in some form or other.
One of the co-founders of Food Panda actually said
that's
GMV,
such
it's an open secret that the vendors they actually buy each other's products each other and they just play around. That also shows in GMV.
No, but I think to your point, absolutely agree that it need not be.
As a group,
for
this 4-week course, we should more discuss on things which are more viable offline.
No, correct. Yeah, no, exactly. Offline as well. Yeah.
Be more lucrative.
There's one more example that I can give you, which is the tea business that has come up recently, the chayos business. Yeah, the chayos, etc. They're opening up chai stalls, and then there's nothing wrong. Yeah, exactly. There's a company called the Orange. I'm forgetting the name of the company, but they're making robots for logistics and delivery. Grey Orange, yeah, correct.
Yeah, that's what I think I agree with him completely on this.
Yeah, it's probably a fad. Yeah.
Not only on e-commerce, but we are focusing more on like B2C. And third, I think we are focusing only on companies which are doing well.
No, correct. Yeah.
I think we should be talking about those.
A lot of examples will come.
Because if you see the history also.
Yeah.
Now this new buzzword is coming called unicorn.
Yeah.
Unicorn, which was recently a word coined, which I read sometime
$1 billion valuation.
Unicorn, which is coming in Bangalore.
Yeah.
So we are talking about only organizations which are reaching such a stage that at the pinnacle they will cross a lot of people.
Yeah.
But I think we should also talk about
who did not,
which are not really even kicked off and failed.
No, correct.
I think if we can also touch upon those things,
it
will help us.
I think unicorns, by definition, are mythical, so they don't exist.
We keep on hearing these new words and we keep on hearing new terms, and we may also cover new
I'll tell you the latest term that you should be aware of, which will start coming up now. So, unicorns became big, decacorns, all those terms came in. Like, $10 billion plus ventures will be decacorns. But by definition, all these are mythical animals, so they don't exist. A unicorn doesn't exist. And someone who's about to become a unicorn is called a babycorn. But now the term, sorry? But now what is coming is essentially something called a cockroach, that you have to be a cockroach because things will go bad from now. I mean, in the sense that there will be a lot of shake-up that will happen in the industry, and people who can survive this shake-up will sustain in the long run. And therefore, at least for the next 5-6 months or so, you will see the funding activities coming down, so on and so forth.
Funding activity means valuation is coming down.
Valuation is coming down, yeah.
Also, most of these businesses, they start with assuming we need funds. I mean,
that is the worst thing.
That to even start an idea is saying, okay, I have an idea, I know these
Yes,
VC.
correct.
I mean, 99.9%
That's
people
the concept of MVP comes in there.
immediately want.
The moment you think of funding first, you're not going to
I made my first 5-year plan only after 3 years.
Yeah.
You know?
No, correct.
I mean, not that people start their first 5-year plan, then the valuation, then the money comes.
And if you're building
don't
for
know what to
yourself,
do
you
with
don't
the
need to you don't need to build your own business plan if you're starting on your own. I mean, if you believe in the idea, you believe in the idea. I think funding comes at a time when you have to say that, look, now I have to push the pedal on the floor, and I want that much amount of money.
And I was reading one article somewhere on website, maybe on some VC fund site only. They said that in US 5 lakh businesses start every year. Out of that, only 1,000 businesses.
No, correct.
VC. That is just 0.2%.
No, exactly.
That means 99.8% of the
Agreed.
businesses are bootstrapped.
Agreed.
If you're self-sustained, you don't really need.
You don't need funding, yeah. And just adding one point, which is today we celebrate funding a lot more than execution. And there was someone who told me a very interesting thing that, look, congratulating someone on a fundraise is actually congratulating a chef for buying the vegetable for the food that he's going to cook. Let him first cook the food and then go and congratulate them. But there is too much of hype around funding in general. And
I think funding mainly is, making the product is not so high cost. Mainly I think funding is used for marketing purpose only. 99% because marketing cost is too much.
And you have to get funding because I get a...
Too much
correct.
And it is a validation of our idea also, but because the guys are competing in the market with discounts and lot many things, so you have to compete on. Funding is actually required also. I mean.
Funding is going in this discounts actually.
Only funding focus is not
marketing only.
Not necessarily from.
I said no. Oyo rooms, I really enjoy the experience and the model. I like the model. But right now they are only competing in the marketplace based on discounts only. Because they have raised a war chest of 600 crores. They are just giving discounts and booking the customers. So I mean, different ways. So funding is also required in a way, but you can't just wish away with the funding.
No, they should not wish away. But I think his point is fair that don't start by thinking if I don't get funded, then I'll not be there, because it's your own conviction that you're going after into the business with.
That mindset is not right.
If you're convinced with your own idea, then go for it. If the idea is great, people will validate, people will come and sort of.
Like whatever idea you're working on, it's not you only you are working on, there are other people also working on.
10 people will be working on that idea.
They are getting funding.
You go in the market, you realize there are more than 10.
Customer will move to those other ideas.
No, correct.
Can we approach VCs for validating the idea?
I think the best validation will come when you talk to, as you rightly mentioned, people who are from that industry, people who are around you using the product. I mean, there was another. See, validating of idea for Facebook came from launching it within the Harvard dorm. They did not go out beyond that. The Facebook or the Face Smash that they started with. It will come from, as you rightly mentioned, do an MVP, take it to 5 people, say that, ki boss, tum ye use karoge kya? And there is another interesting story about Airbnb that they basically went out. There was a conference, an event happening. They launched the SF event pe apna Airbnb. No one came to know of it, and they said, "Oh, now Airbnb is launched. Why don't you use this to sort of stay in this place?" You have to get the user to use it. That's the best validation that you can get. If you can create value for the consumer, you know that your product is validated. I think the rest, everyone is I telling you great idea, he telling you great idea, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
I think we can touch upon ideas which have not worked. But I think we are talking about which are working well, almost B2C. And a lot of ideas which have not really worked, probably they are lying somewhere we don't even know about.
Sure. Sorry, just.
Certain ideas are getting pushed in the market with the sheer, you can say, thrust of money or advertising, and but the user need is still not there. Or, there are certain financial products or certain ideas which will pick up with the ecosystem which gets more sorted, and we have a lot more people on to the formal economy. I want to work on an idea which may see a light of the day in terms of the real volumes or the scale of the
Yeah.
I'm not looking at anybody to fund that idea because that idea needs
some time to sort of come to this thing. Yeah.
The inflection point I see is 2-3 years down the line.
Yeah.
And there have been regulations curbing it and all. So there have been guys who have lost money in this. For such ideas, how are they longer term looking investors, or they're just guys who want to see 1,000 crore sales coming in 3 years down the line?
No. Yeah.
Or
if that was the case, many businesses would not have got funded today, at least.
Are there certain investors who are ready to wait out for the next 3-4 years in the market and build a company before they go out in the market in terms of and wait for the idea?
The answer to your question is yes, there will be. If not, then you have loans available that you can take at a cheaper rate. Government of India has got that CGTME small scale. SIDBI has that.
But you need 2 years of alternate reasons.
Exactly. Is it 2 years of this thing or?
2 years. Yeah.
Okay, because earlier when I took once for my earlier venture, it was at the inception time. Exactly. Yeah. Because I took it at a greenfield project.
No, but they want 2 years now.
But it also depends what state you're from.
Actually, no, bankers at the root level, no, they don't take the risk most of the.
No, they don't take the risk.
It's a scheme by the government, but bankers don't take the risk.
Yes.
That's a usual practice.
Yeah. For the first time, if you go and approach them that I will take a loan under the CGTMS scheme, they'll first ask you what exactly is your project and why you are looking out for funding without any collateral.
Yeah.
Why don't you give some collateral and we'll give you 5 crores instead of just 1 crore?
Yeah. Otherwise, you can get it without collateral. That's the scheme of the government. Yeah.
Shorter way, or they try to deviate you from that CGTMS.
Yeah, they will not give you, but they will give you to the company which builds big airline companies, which is not sort of reaping it. Yeah, but to your point was that it is correct that you will find investors who will fund this thing. But amongst all of it, which no one can talk and say anything about, there's an interesting study done by someone who looked at all the ventures that have failed and succeeded. The most important reason between the two failed versus succeeded one was the first reason was timing. Timing the market is tough, but timing is very, very crucial. If you press the pedal hard early on, there are many venture ideas that started much early before time and did not see the face of the day and then sort of disappeared. Before this, like just on certain ideas, every company has also evolved and pivoted a lot over the period of time. And I can share some examples with you how the companies or the ideas that came into existence worked for a bit and did not work out at the end of the day. In India, one of that area is hardware. I think hardware as an area is a lucrative area, but there is not that much of sort of ecosystem developed around it. I think for that one needs to sort of wait for the timing to be correct. When Snapdeal started, they started off as a coupon card initially, which was before Snapdeals. When it was Jasper, they started with like a physical card that you can go to a restaurant and sort of swipe it and get 500 rupees off, etc., etc. I think those ideas came, but they were not fundamentally scalable, and they sort of shut down. Cashless transaction in business, in hotels, is an interesting thought, an interesting idea. Just today, Zomato shut down their cashless transaction in Dubai, which they had launched earlier. So I think there are many examples of that many ideas came into existence, but because they were ahead of time, they could not scale up to the level it should have before they can take it to the next level.
The market conditions.
You did not have the right supply, you did not have the right customers were not used to buying it.
Regulations which might be stopping it.
Yeah. Regulations, regulation technology will always have a fight. That you cannot avoid. I think you have to embrace it over the course of time. But I think regulations, it's very difficult to sort of comment on regulation, but at least one thing that I definitely believe in is if you are doing right, I think regulation will come around to sort of take you in and sort of accept that this is the best way of doing things. So you just have to believe that this is the best way of doing things for consumer and for your end user. And I think regulation over the course of time corrects itself.
Now are coming soon for
Yeah.
Uber and Ola.
Yeah, Uber and Ola has changed. Your sort of the Flipkarts, etc., have changed in terms of taxations, plus how you can sort of keep stuff in various locations. And that I think absolutely is a worry for an investor, but not for an entrepreneur, because an entrepreneur will go in and say that, look, I mean, this is something that I believe in, and I think it will work out. Let me go out and execute on that one.
Can you shine some light on the last mile of negotiations with investors and startups, stakes? What is the wiggle room generally? The last average 10-20 deals that you might have done at Bertelsmann.
The wiggle room in the sense you're looking at
generally when
what you negotiate on.
Like what kind of stake are you looking for in the company?
See, what I can give you is a broad sense. Funding in general, I completely agree with him, is something which that's the reason why in the program we have kept it right at the end. So the person has built the idea and then comes to funding. But I think generally when you are starting up, the first is friends, family and fools who will come and invest in your business. They will put behind your idea, and that time you don't have to do, and I'll come to your point also, but I'll just give you an overview of what's happening. They will look at you, they know you personally, they will put in some money at that point in time. That's stage one of it. Stage two is you go to an HNI, someone from the industry who knows the stuff and can potentially put in 10 lakh, 20 lakh, 30 lakh rupees. At that time the person will look at just the idea and a sort of a team availability. At that time, look at not diluting beyond 10% maximum, I would say. Keep it at 10%, and that dilution, it's important to fight for the dilution, because you don't want to get to the first institutional investor when you're diluted a lot, saying that, look, I'm 20% diluted, you come in, you take 35%, this guy has 20% and I'm left with 45%, and why do I be in the business at that stage? So that's the time the first pre-Series A level guys come in, dilute maximum at 10%. Then comes your Series A folks, which will come in, and then Series B, Series C, so on and so forth. At Series A, there is no science behind it. The investor comes in and, look, I'll put anywhere between $1 million to $2, $3, $4 million, and I'll take 20-25% to 30% of the stake of the company. So you have a basic dilution in mind. Initial stage 10, then next is 20-30%, and therefore you then come out with a valuation depending upon what amount of funds that you require at that point in time. The negotiation essentially happens on the following, which is what is your pre-money valuation and what is the funding required. The tussle is always, you want a higher pre-money valuation and higher money, and the investor wants otherwise, and that's where everyone negotiate upon. So depending upon the stage of the funding, hopefully it gives you an idea how much dilution you should look for, and the funding requirement pretty much remains the same. The same stage company could be valued at $1 million, $5 million, $3 million, but it's all a function of how much money you require and what kind of dilution you are sort of looking to give at that point in time. So you negotiate on the funding and the valuation aspect, and the second thing you negotiate on rights. As an early stage entrepreneur, we tend not to negotiate on rights. It is very important for you to understand each of the rights that are written on the document and fight for the rights that you want to have on your board. The most common term that you will hear in these discussions is it's standard, but go and ask this question, why is it standard? Because everyone says that, look, this is standard, and every investor will ask for it. Acha Baba, but why will you ask for it? Help me understand the rationale for that, and then you can go after that. And that stage, get someone who understands those negotiation and term sheets. Yeah, they understand the standards, why the standards exist. There is a simple rationale behind that, but you will only get to know once you sort of go deeper into that.
Liquidation preference.
Yeah, so
I have heard a lot.
Yeah, liquidation preference. There is a separate. We are creating a separate, a larger module on liquidation preference, just for people to understand.
They are de-risking their model, and they are calling themselves risk providers.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. So risk. Just picking up on liquidation preference, I'll just touch upon that. What exactly does that mean? Is liquidation preference is a way in which VC says that I will not take any risk in this business, and it means that they are asking for the capital protection. If they have put in $1 million in your company, and the company is, after putting in $1 million, is $10 million, the VC owns 10%. If tomorrow for some reason the company gets sold at $20 million, the VC will get 10% of $20 million or $1 million, whichever is higher, which means that if you are selling your company at $8 million, VC will still get $1 million, and after that the money will get distributed amongst the rest of the folks. That is the basic form of liquidation preference, which means that if shit hits the fan today in the industry, VCs will not lose a lot. It's going to be the entrepreneurs and the ESOPs folks, the employees, who will lose a lot if the bubble burst. The second thing, there's another term that is coming up, which is the there is on the liquidation, there is a preferential liquidation preference, something like that. It's a double dipping thing that you give me in the heights of the bubble. It used to be that you promise me to give me back 4x of what I've invested. So if I'm investing $1 million into a company, you give me at least $4 million, irrespective of whatever happens to you, or 10% of the valuation, whichever is higher. So those models also exist. So be careful when you are entering into any kind of agreement as to what the liquidation. Yeah. Fox did a latest round with 2x liquidation preference,
so
which was not right.
Is like entrepreneur doesn't really actually get anything with the company. So
No, exactly. Yeah. Ultimately, what happens is you look at the first clause, second clause, valuation, dilution, and you say, okay, fine, theek hai, baaki sab is standard. But it's the remaining thing where you need to spend a lot of time to understand what are the things that you're giving up as a right and what are the things that you want to keep up as a right for yourself.
I think most of the times, and a lot of current sessions, this current session is also quite enriching. Most of the times when we think about an idea, we also think about, okay, how much is the organization going to go, how much is the valuation and all. If you can share some thoughts apart from how do you exactly validate the idea. Obviously, we have to talk to a near and dear one, family or friends. But how do you really validate an idea?
I think.
Is there? I'm not sure if there's a checklist to that, but I think we should spend some more time on that because see, ultimately it's about validation.
No, correct. Yeah.
And you get 10 people to talk to and then see X funding, Y funding, validation, liquidation, etc.
No, correct.
Those steps come actually later.
And there's more sort of
idea validation. You also use the word kick-ass and also. I think if you can elaborate and spend some time on that, it will be great.
Yeah. Anyone wants to take a stab at that, or I can. The first thing first is, it's the problem statement and the pain point and the solution that you're talking about.
Just one thing.
Yeah.
See, every time is not the problem, and Apple, the product is not a problem.
No, correct. That's a different product altogether. Yeah.
So
that's a significant.
In many services, like Air Deccan came.
Yeah.
There were many airlines.
Yeah.
It didn't pinpoint really a problem, but it just gave people a wave to travel.
Yeah.
Additional.
No, it's a incrementally significantly better thing. Whatever is happening in the business.
Because the airlines were already crowded.
Yeah.
Okay. He didn't give a new player or nothing, but it just we are no frills company. We won't give you anything.
Yeah.
But just because you want to travel from here to there at a convenient.
You don't need to pay this much. Correct.
People accepted it because for 2 hours you don't need to have snacks also and drinks also and everything also.
Yeah.
That's like typical what's happening in the services startups at the moment, right?
But there was a problem. Budget travel was a problem.
No, budget travel, but
because the tickets were charged for 5,000-6,000, he offered for 2,000. So budget travel was a problem.
I think that problem probably was there to a certain extent, but I think Apple is a good example that it did not even exist at that point in time. I think
we can beyond Apple, we've been talking about Apple for quite a long time. How do you really?
Let's have some
Apple is
oranges.
the thing,
No, correct.
Because I think we are getting into the model of following Silicon Valley,
Yeah.
Apple,
They just
and
made
XYZ
us think
things.
that people think that they need to get.
Yeah.
It doesn't need.
We are living in an Indian system.
Which is different, yeah.
Value system,
Correct.
Where earlier when we actually were educated, okay, say this guy is doing engineering, follow him.
Yeah.
It's not happening now.
No, correct.
It will never happen.
Yeah.
The kind of young breed which is coming in.
Yeah.
If you can throw up some light on how do you, okay, there has to be a problem or there doesn't have to be a problem, you create something new.
See, this is an example. This is Cafe Coffee Day. It's a highly successful all pan India. So, but if someone wants to come a coffee shop just like this, something different, there is a market for him also.
No, correct. Absolutely, it exists.
So
Yeah.
if someone wants to bring a product that already exists in the market, but because it's not overcrowded.
Yeah, no, agreed. So let's pick up your idea. Step one, you pick up an idea. Whatever is the idea is doing something. It's either improving customer experience, it's either creating a new experience for the consumer, completely different altogether.
Or making something a new brand. Like
Making a new brand, yeah. So if you make it, make it slightly better or incrementally better experience, or making a new experience altogether, which doesn't used to exist there. The step 2 for you is after that is if those 2 steps are being or sort of taking place, what is the incremental value that you're generating into the system? I.e., for you, will the consumer, are you helping consumer save certain costs? Are you helping consumer earn something extra? Are you giving consumer a certain benefit for which the consumer will pay? So when you have identified a need, you know that there is a thing that you're solving for. The second question for you is that can you monetize that need to any extent in the market? And if you can, what is the level of monetization that you can get? And at that point in time, you have to be honest to yourself whether the shoe shining example that I was talking about, whether people will pay a significant amount of money for shining the shoe in a better manner in the morning. So the second step becomes monetization and the level of monetization that you can do. And these two things, if that checks out to the extent which tells you that look, the business will be an X 100 crore or 500 crore or 1000 crore business, that I can go after this, is then comes the question is what is it that requires within me to solve for that thing.
That people do online surveys.
Yeah.
I've also seen people, you have a cup of
Yeah.
they come to you and then they ask you to fill up a survey form.
Yeah.
Then the other thought process is also coming in that don't go to too much surveys.
I think
MVP and go about it. So what's your view on that?
My view is personally have some interaction with your potential customers or consumers of the product going to be before you even get into the MVP stage, because you need those inputs from them as to what the workflow is, how it is happening. You don't need to survey 1,000 people to come to an answer for that.
Because that thing is going past now.
No one has time to do that also, and things will sort of move very quickly. Get an answer to a broad level question. We're talking to 5, 15, 20, 30 people. Ki boss ye karke, this is how it can improve, and these are things that you need to sort of do to sort of improve upon that. But I would not encourage you to, unless you have the resource to spend on 20,000 rupees of doing a focus group, I would suggest that look, just focus on, get the basics in, build a minimum viable product, and then sort of go ahead and take it to the market and test it out finally.
And even if I can add on to that, again the Apple example I will add at for that. But the Steve Jobs always used to say customer doesn't know what he wants actually most of the times.
Yeah.
So I mean surveys also don't help.
That's a challenge that happens with you to consume survey.
That's what I'm asking, because I've seen a lot of the divergent views on these surveys. And all.
Yeah, no, correct. Yeah.
Because there are survey companies which are also existing, and there are people who are saying, okay, I'm not going to do a survey, and then talk to 10 different family members or friends and relatives.
No, correct. I think it's obviously a fair option of doing this thing.
Surveys are actually, in fact, one of the presentations I attended a product management express, which is done by NASCOM and
PMC.
IPMA. I was like a member till last year at least. So one of the people who came, like he was a chief product manager, something like chief product officer, something, not of Flipkart, of Snapdeal, B2B company. So he said that surveys are vastly exaggerated. So he said that if a car company before Henry Ford had gone and said that what do you want in a car, people would have said, I want a faster carriage or faster horses. Customers, what's like Steve Jobs, I mean, I don't want to give Apple, but what he said that sometimes customer doesn't know what he wants,
exactly.
he sees something.
No, but I think it's important for you to talk to certain set of customers, just to understand how they're doing things. There is another way of thinking, which is thinking from first principles, that if you have to wear a watch, there are these 3 steps involved in wearing a watch. Can I change one of these steps significantly to create something different for a consumer? And from a first principle also you will get a lot of answers, but to get to that first principles you need to know how people are wearing a watch or how people are tying a shoelaces, and that step you will only get to know if you observe these things.
Fundamentally, if you have a problem, then talk to a couple of people, see if it's working well or not. Build a small MVP, make some money out of it. And then
No, with MVP you don't need to make money out of it. With MVP is whether people will use your minimum viable product or not. Are they using and they are helping solve, giving them a better experience? Yeah, a section of people. It could be 50, 100, 1,000 users who are just using a product for whatever that you are offering it, whether that cup of
that's a little risk-free
coffee.
You come to know what's working, what's not working, and do it accordingly.
The earlier model used to be that you invest a lot of money in consumer research and build a nice product and launch it, and if anything goes wrong, you have to recall the entire product. In today's day, you have to be very agile and to fail. I think fail fast is wrong, but get up fast and move fast forward. Yeah, but reduce the cost of experimentation.
Also something that I've experienced is once you have your product ready, once you start going to people, it will evolve. Say whatever.
No, it will evolve. Yeah.
Much research you do,
100%.
you feel that this is the best one. When you go down and start talking to people with the product, right?
The product.
Yeah, yeah. This is what it. And when he gives you feedback, or when you are there, that time automatically you will evolve, and probably 1 month, 1 year later, you will laugh at the first product that you came out with.
If you're happy with the first product, if you're like absolutely happy, which means that you have not done a great job. The first product you will always be upset with.
So we have to be unsatisfied folks initially.
I'm saying that don't aim for building a product which you will be unsatisfied with.
That's a good one.
But whatever that you will come out with, you will not be satisfied with that, because you
Be curious.
be curious.
I think you answered mine.
Yeah. Just be curious. So perfect. I think that's all that we are. Yeah, sorry.
I
Yeah.
want to know your vision on startup because most of these brands have interesting co-founders, founders. Is your vision to enrich us with thoughts, or is it like a part of your business plan?
The UpGrad business, I think for us, I started that discussion with that. For us, it's one of the biggest challenges. No one wants to learn and get educated. I think it's like, and I keep on telling the team internally that it's like eating vegetable. Till your mother forces you to eat vegetable, no one wants to eat vegetable on their own. So for us, it's making learning and education far more sort of an engaged process rather than a one-way communication as the way it has been going on. I think we are going after two broad trends hypothesis that we started with. We said the way industry needs are changing, university system are not keeping pace with that. So I think we spoke of that we never learned mobile, we only learned newspaper and television in our life. And the second thing is, I think for online environment, we believe the experience that online can offer to working professionals and sort of folks who are already learning something else and on top want to do something beyond that, we feel that there is a huge potential in improving that, incrementally improving the experience of learning for those working professionals. And those two led us to sort of create this thing. For this specific program, I think my personal objective is to provide exposure. I think get people exposed to many more ideas, which is not just from the program with what will be on the platform, but in groups like these, in the discussion forums, in the WhatsApp group that you will be creating, and create a thing that goes beyond just UpGrad. And UpGrad doesn't need to be there for you for your lifelong learning, and you will pick up on your own over the course of time. So yeah. All right, perfect. I think.
So any other questions?
Will you be emailing us the sort of the contents of the course and how the flows, or have you emailed? I'm not sure.
Yeah, we already have it, but I'll do it again.
Yeah, that will be there. But I think when the program starts a lot, it will be slightly in more detailed manner. But I think what we have right now is a very high level thing, like do A, B, C, X, Y, Z. But for us, it's very important that let's not make this the entire education experience as listening to a video lecture, doing some assignment, doing some questions, but go beyond that, go out of the platform, interact on WhatsApp, interact on Facebook, organize these events. And if 5 people are living in Andheri, 5 people in Andheri can meet up at a given point in time, which is convenient to them, and bounce off ideas with each other. The other thing, if one can take away from this is, which I always keep on telling, is stealth is stupid. None of your ideas, none of your thought process, if you're keeping it as a stealth mode, either you're keeping it in a stealth mode because you don't want to tell your employer about it, but go out to the market and talk to people and validate your idea through those discussions also. It will be far more useful than holding back on the idea, which is something at least that I'm seeing these days in India, that people are keeping a lot of idea. I will not tell you because otherwise I don't know what, because 5 people will already have that idea, 15 people will.
We're already finding partners.
Exactly, yeah. Perfect. Anything else that you would like to sort of touch upon?
Anything else outside? We have,
like,
it's already 6:45, but probably we have another 5-10 minutes. So anything else even outside idea?
Maybe we could just touch upon what are the details of this program. What exactly will be 3 months? That will be great.
So the details of the program, I think most of you must have talked to one of our admissions counselors. But essentially the way the program is structured is that it's a 15-week online course, and each week there is a specific module. So I think if we have course brochures, we'll also distribute the physical copies.
That will be good, yeah.
And we'll email again to all of you the soft copy of the course brochure. So we're covering one module each week. And the way the course is structured at the broad level is that there are 3 main buckets. So the first bucket is idea validation. The second bucket is scaling up. And the third bucket is legal and funding. So there are 5 modules in each of them. And the way we have designed the course is that we have worked with the top 30, 40 entrepreneurs in India, and you must know the names already, you must have seen it somewhere in our marketing campaign.
Most of them are probably web-based also.
You want about a customer, Mayank. Yeah, go ahead.
And also we are working with the top academic faculty from institutes like IIT Kanpur, IIM Ahmedabad, UC Berkeley. So the reason to bring all of them together is to provide clarity to aspiring entrepreneurs on what the entire journey will look like. As Mayank was saying, the 2 keywords for us in this program are clarity and exposure. So that's what the course will be focusing on, and we work with them, we work with these people to understand what are the critical challenges that entrepreneurs face. And based on that, we have designed these 15 modules. So the first critical challenge is idea validation. Under that broad bucket, we have 5 different modules of how do you identify a gap in the market, how do you think about sustainable differentiation, and a couple of others. The next big bucket is scaling up, where when you start a business, it's easy to get your first 5, 10, 15, 20, 100 consumers, but how do you scale from there to 1 million consumers? Be it in terms of building a brand, digital marketing, everything is covered under that set of scaling up. And finally, as an entrepreneur, you will be signing contracts on a regular basis. We've discussed funding, so that's a critical component of the course, where we'll be covering funding, legal aspects that you need to take care of in the last section, which is legal and funding. So that's broadly how the course is structured, and you know the kind of people that we're working with to help deliver this course. And finally, the only other thing about the course that I would like to mention, that it is not a listen and learn kind of a course. So it's not too much like giving you gyan, but it is a heavy do and learn course, where every week for each module, you will be going through a case study. Right? Say for example, one of the things in scaling up is how do you build an A+ team, which is critical to scale up your enterprise. So how do you think about building an A+ team? What are the various alternatives? Do you reach out to friends and family to hire? Do you reach out to agencies? Do you go to do X, Y, Z? Helping you understand what the various alternatives are. And none of them is really right or wrong, but what are the pros and cons for each alternative? And based on your strengths as an individual, your strengths as a company, what is best suited for you to do? So we take you through a case study during the week, which you will be working on. And at the end of it, you will get feedback on, did you miss any alternative? Did you miss any pros and cons? And then it's for you to then decide that when I'm in this situation, which all of you are sure to be as entrepreneurs, because at some point of time, you'll think about how do I build an A+ team? Then you have a clear idea, you have the clarity and the exposure to think that, look, these are the alternatives that exist. I understand the pros and cons. I know my situation, so this is best for me. And you take a very confident and clear choice. So that's essentially the way the course is structured.
When one is going to work on the case study, one needs to send it across to you, and
absolutely, yeah.
You guys are going to validate, see through it. And
so once you submit the case study at the end of the week, our academic team will evaluate it and will get back to you with feedback on what else you could have thought about.
Is it also going to be one-on-one offline, or is it going to be over?
It's going to be over our platform for the most part, all these interactions. And we will continuously keep organizing offline events like this, which will keep happening in parallel. But the academic part itself, discussion of case studies, all of that. For example, we will also have a lot of group case studies, where 2 or 3 of you will be put in a group and you'll have to solve it together. And then we will facilitate those interactions on the online platform also, where you'll have breakout rooms. But you can also, as we are stressing, meet offline and solve that assignment.
We're also thinking of putting, for you guys to, one of the things at least that I prefer a lot is putting things in writing and uploading it, posting it someplace. We may encourage you to use tools like Medium or some other blogging tools where you can just put up your thoughts, and that will just sort of at least let you put those ideas into words onto a platform that will be useful for other team members to see. And the same thing, whatever you're putting up, others can comment and add sort of to it. So we'll try to keep it more sort of engaging rather than just uploading a Word document.
Just thinking about that. When I answer to your question, to the question that's posted, if 20 other people have also answered, it's easily played.
Absolutely. So all of that will also be available to you in terms of what did other people think about this question or this challenge, and there's a lot for you to draw from that.
And will we also share our ideas to validate it?
Yeah, I mean that's what I would. So one of the starting point is we are asking you to put down those ideas, whatever that you may have. You not have a very clear idea thought about that I want to do something in healthcare, but I don't know what exactly. To some extent, we want you to pick up an idea because as you go through the program, we are asking you to put whatever that you have learned into some kind of a sort of like a tracker which you can put up that look, if I am doing this, my team structure will look something like this. If I am doing this, then my marketing message will be something like this, such that you have not just learned but also applied a lot of this to your own sort of venture idea or to your own potential thoughts that you may have. So that will be important for you to have some idea, or at least put your minds to it and say that look, I'll think about this idea and I'll run through this to the course of the project.
And what will be the frequency of this offline meetings, like once a week or twice a week, like in the first?
So as I said, we will be facilitating quite a few of them. So for example, we will not only do it in Bombay but also other cities. Most of you must have seen the post that we explain the course, the cohort demographics. So a lot of people come from other cities as well. So we'll be hosting them across various cities, and probably the frequency is going to be once every 2-3 weeks. That is facilitated by us, but as I keep stressing, I think you should also just go ahead and meet amongst yourself, exchange numbers, and keep organizing these offline events where you can talk and discuss.
Yeah, so Ronnie is here.
Yeah, so
and we covered 15 questions so far, or probably even more. But if you guys, if you feel that there's anything else that probably Ronnie can throw light on, or I think just one point that came out is if you can just probably, there's a lot of talk about two things. People talk a lot about venture funding and funding, etc. And funding gets celebrated quite a lot. I think as a philosophy, as a general, this thing, is this healthy for the ecosystem or not? I think the second point that came up was, we are talking a lot about the e-commerce, the Flipkarts, the Snapdeals, the Zomatos of the world, but there's also this business of getting 100 cows and sort of scaling that up. But offline businesses, is it losing its steam, or is technology going to sort of surpass what exists in the offline world? If you can share those two thoughts, probably, I mean, that came out as one of the theme from this discussion.
Firstly, I'll caveat by saying these are my personal views, because I guess there are going to be subjective views for everybody. But to take the second part first, I think on the contrary, actually, I think while the media is kind of constantly highlighting the e-commerce and new media, because it just sounds like a lot more interesting to talk about. The numbers are high, so the pink papers rely mostly on numbers. But actually, there's a lot more being celebrated outside of e-commerce. There's no question about that thought process. And the proof of that is there are more people entering that line of businesses, but obviously they don't get talked about in the media. So you're right, they may not get media coverage, but they're getting celebrated because two things. One, there are more and more entrepreneurs getting into the field. And I don't mean just social entrepreneurship field. I mean in education, health, and many other sectors also, outside of the new media aspects. And second, they're getting funded. So obviously they're getting funded at different levels. And to the first point that I think you mentioned, look, I think funding is important, but today it's become a sort of a benchmark for most people. It's become a benchmark that, okay, I'll prepare everything that I need to prepare for an investor. Now, my personal viewpoint on that is it's scary, it should worry you, and it's not really the right way to go. But not making it judgmental whether there's a wrong way or a right way. I'm just being careful about my words. But the question is, obviously it's not the right way to go, because you have to build a business as you have thought what your business is going to be and how your company is. And I think today there are going to be more and more failures because people are building businesses as they want other people to view it and how they'll appear attractive than rather the core of the business. So I'm worried for that reason, and I think a lot of people will, and over the next 3 years we'll find a lot of startups failing for this one single reason, that they started up because they wanted to build a business, but they forgot who they were building the business for, which is only for yourself and your vision and your image. The minute you start with the first step that says, let me create everything else, but what does the investor want? What does the investor want? You know, then you're constantly looking at a different mirror from day one. That's just the first part. Then if you manage to get an investor, then the more you say, okay, what does my next investor want, or what do you want more to give me more money, that business is not going to really go very well. There'll always be exceptions, but by and large, that's a dangerous way to go. Because if you don't get money, what is your choice? Are you going to not start your business? Because then you need to think through whether you want to get into the business in the first place, frankly, very honestly. Because this is going to be just the smallest of your problems. You've got many more bigger problems to follow, and you've got many bigger failures to to combat, and you're going to have all of those. So if you can't give an answer to that right now, think about it. Because if you say, no, if I can't get funding, I can't go forward, I think maybe you can't be an entrepreneur for a very long-term period, because that's going to be quite a scary thing for you to go through. So, I think that's the black and white of it, but it's a personal point of view. Some people may get by, but by and large, I think that would be the key. And just to add on to what Pawan just said about, I think our vision is much more that we want to do things online. We want this to be a convenience that I know for most people, coming, physical, touch, feel, meet is an important element.
Yeah.
But please come to UpGrad, because we genuinely believe that we're going to be transformational in the way we're going to interact with people online. And expect our thing much more to be online. Ask questions online. We'll have our teacher associates that will come back to you online. We'll be as much available to you online. So I know there's an expectation that, shall we meet? Because everyone thinks entrepreneurship is first about networking, second about investors, and then third about business. I'm thinking if you can reverse the order, that would be nice in life, genuinely. So yes, as he said, we will facilitate, but we really want to push you all to think more online, which means not because we want to convert you all to internet users, which you all definitely are, but we actually do believe that's a more efficient way for you all to learn. You'll learn more as a community, because to get 50 people in a room is impossible. To get 25 people in a room is challenging. And distances are a problem, and this is a pan-India course. You might learn more from somebody sitting in Chandigarh or Delhi than you will by necessarily having that. Otherwise, everyone will know everybody else. They'll have their addresses, I think, or contacts in some form. So if you all want to meet, meet. But I think from UpGrad, we'll really push you to interact with us online.
Yeah.
So that was a slightly longish answer to the question.
I have a question for you, Ronnie. Obviously, when you started UpGrad, you had asked a lot of background things and why you want to start UpGrad. If you want to sum it up, what is your vision of UpGrad? In a single statement, what would you say?
So it is something where we want to be very disruptive and very forward-thinking in education. And we've chosen higher education and the professional careers as a specific zone, because we feel right now that's really where the need is. There's a lot happening in the school space, there's a lot happening in other space, but this is a core area we want to focus on, because I think that's going to be the most receptive to online. So I think our vision is very clear that we want to be transformational in the education system. And I'd love to say it in one line, and that is actually the vision, but I think the clarity is that if you can get the kind of wide faculty that if you went to any one single institution, you would never get, because of a distance. Either you get to somewhere where you've got the best faculty, which are just a handful of universities. Second is to allow you all to carry on with whatever you're planning to do right now, whether it's to be an entrepreneur or whether to carry on with your job or whatever you want to do. So it's all of those flexibilities. You didn't have an option. I think we're working very hard on this option, that you can actually learn as progressively as you learn offline, online.
Just another follow-up question on that. So I just wanted to ask you, how are you, very rudimentary and stupid question maybe, but how are you different from Coursera? Because Coursera has also got the same kind of vision, right?
Yeah, of course.
So, I mean, I just see that I'm just sorry for just playing devil's advocate, but I can see that if the same startup course is being offered in Coursera, it's almost going to be the same thing. Right? You will have online interactions, you will have teaching assistants giving us answers online. You will have professors from various universities, and you will have.
So I think our vision may be different from an India perspective or from this perspective or a curriculum perspective. But there is absolutely no question about the fact that there should be at least 200, 300 players in this field. I don't think this should be restricted to 1, 2 or 3 players. So this market for India is very wide. This market for the whole world is so wide. And the good part for us, A, UpGrad, and B, India, is actually we're not 50 years behind Boston and California when it comes to education. We're pretty much, I would say, on a level playing field with almost everyone else in the world. So I think what we will reinvent, somebody else will learn. What they learn, we will learn from them. And I think it's going to be a phenomenal cross-learning of people, because we're all at a very ground level right now in terms of, and that's good and bad. The bad is that all the learnings will be fresh. And I think the good part is it's a clean slate, which means if you come to us, I think we're trying very hard not to get burdened with the conventional way of teaching.
Yeah.
And we can easily veer towards that right now. When we're talking to faculty and we're talking to tie-ups, we're talking to universities, most people feel sure we love to tie up because everyone feels online is the way to go. But most of them actually want to then, after we finish that excitement, want to go back to teaching the old way. So I think it's the easiest course for us to take right now. And if we didn't have a vision straight that we want to be very different and we want to be long term, we'd be taking that easy solution right now. Get all the faculty, put them in a room, and instead of you going there, yeah. So the simple offering can be just instead of you going there, instead of Muhammad going to the mountain, mountain is coming to Muhammad. That's not our vision. If you understand what I'm saying. So I think that's really where we think is the differentiator, and I don't have a serious issue that there'll be at least 100 players in this field. I think our visions will be different.
Perfect. So, thank you very much for coming down and for the time. I know some of you have come down from even Pune, so thanks a lot for your time. Hope you have enjoyed this. We had a lovely time, and hope it was useful for you as well. I know some of you have questions around the course and the mentorship track and a lot of other things, which we can discuss when we're having snacks in the cafeteria. Another announcement is that we have your first reading material for the course, which is Ronnie's book, Dream with Your Eyes Open. I'm just kidding. It's a book that...
definitely not a course material. It's definitely not course material, but it's nice. I hope it's nice reading material.
It's definitely nice reading material, and we have a signed copy from Ronnie, which you can pick up on your way out. So, great meeting
This is
you
only
again.
for the people who come from Pune. Everyone's coming.
That's bad.
Yeah.
That's been bad on Mumbai, actually.
Hyderabad. Just because of that.
So perfect, lovely meeting you. Thanks again.
Thank you
and
very much.
We'll see you soon.
And please join the WhatsApp group. You can just text me.
They have a WhatsApp group now.
You can just text me and then I'll add it up. We already have 10 people on WhatsApp.
And actually, I have at 3 PM.
Just a number.
Thanks, sir. Yeah. Yeah.